This is the Platform Podcast with B-Bad and Brandon.
Put the pillow right back. I'll pretend I've just seen it.
Right back where it is.
Okay, and yes, we are recording now, and welcome to the Platform Podcast, Tim Roberts.
Hey, everyone.
Look at that pillow next to you, Tim. I've never seen that before.
That's a very gay pillow. That's a very gay
I feel like we rehearsed this.
It's very rainbow like me. So
May I see your pillow?
Yes. There's a daddy on that one.
Yes.
And there's a boy on that one.
Which one's your favourite?
I think this one. We can't go past leather and Levi's, so
that dude looks like he lifts a little weight too. We like that.
We don't mind that at all.
No. Fuck no, bro. What have you been, you're locked up, mate, in your little house? What's happening for you, bro?
Yeah, locked up in the apartment. Went out this morning for a walk.
Lovely.
There's not much you can do with a mask on other than walk. Like it's.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's okay though. It's not bad.
So. I reckon the funniest thing is watching people try and drink coffee with their mask.
I actually encountered that problem this morning. Bought the coffee and then had this existential crisis moment of like, oh, what if I take the mask off? Like, is somebody going to yell at me and go full Karen at me? Are the police going to like...
They come out of helicopters, bro. Yeah. They come out of helicopters. They fucking get you.
So I just resolved to like go to a quiet corner of the park and finish the coffee quickly and then,
Right. It's like you understand it, the lengths that we have to go through. Like we were just having the conversation before, like we'd rather nip it in the butt now and try and get on top of it, and then rather a 14-day, 30-day. So hopefully we can.
100%.
And everything's looking good at the moment, so I'm hopefully going to be back at gym on Monday night.
Fuck yeah, we're all
with
going
everyone
to be there,
else.
Bro. I don't know about you, Brando, but as soon I put out a message to the gym that we were shutting, obviously on 6, and all of a sudden I saw all of these faces come and train during the day on Friday that I've never seen train on a Friday during the day before.
Yeah, man, it was pretty similar. Like obviously, Matt closed the gym a bit earlier. He closed at 3 p.m. just to do a bit of a tidy up, get things sanitized, just in case, you know, or hoping, that things resume on the Monday. But yeah, man, gym was like pretty packed pretty quickly, and I was like, go away, this is my time.
Oh dear, Mr. Timothy.
Yes.
21 words. Who you are and what you do, brother. Brando's going to count them.
My name is Tim Roberts, and I am an art historian specialising in Australian decorative arts and material culture.
That was well over 21, but...
It was close. A little bit over.
22, I think.
22 sounds good to me, so let's run with that.
Cool.
Mate.
I think we haven't even scratched the surface with who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so... If you could, for myself, the viewers, say it all again, all of it again, what you do, just a little bit slower.
Okay. So I'm an art historian. We get to play with pictures all day, basically. So when you go to museums and art galleries, the kind of work that I do is more behind the scenes, and I look at the artworks that are there and I try and find their stories. I find their history, and I also tell the stories and biographies of the artists that worked on them as well.
Yeah, wow.
So you write the little thing that goes next to the piece of art in the
Yeah. So that's incidentally not my day job, but it is actually something that I do when I'm curating exhibitions. So I've got to write the little label next to it and get a whole story in under 150 words.
Fuck. Wow. And if the artist is still alive, guarantee they're going to read it and make sure you got to make sure they're happy with what you put up there for them as well.
Absolutely. So they should be, within reason.
No pressure.
So within that, I actually art historians and historians generally, we have something that is our topic that we do. And I look at Australian decorative arts and material culture before 1945. So
Oh, wow.
that encompasses things like furniture, ceramics, silver, and the material culture side of it. It can even be sort of letters that they've written, ephemera that they've made, like posters. And I just set the 1945 boundary because it was the end of World War II. I like dealing with older stuff, and I needed to make a cut somewhere.
Needed it somewhere.
Yeah, you need to stop somewhere.
Now, is that thing to your right, is that a piece of art we're staring at?
That is. This is a vase that was made by a lady in 1940. She was a student at the Swinburne Technical College in Melbourne, and she later taught there as well. So her name was Marjorie McClelland. And I'm not quite sure of what the story of this vase is. It actually says school copy underneath. So I'm thinking that she might have made it as a study piece for other students. It's modelled on a type of vase that was produced in China about 1,000 years ago, and she's tried to replicate the glaze on that and use this kind of fake celadon glaze on it. So it's quite different to what the real thing would be, but in terms of the way she's decorated it and the colour, at least, that she's gone for, it's quite faithful.
Now, I kind of feel like, and forgive me, and I don't mean this sarcastically, but I kind of feel like I'm on an episode of Antique Roadshow. But
that's my life.
How does one get into this field? Like, did you, going through school, were you interested in history? You mentioned World War II, which is fastly becoming one of my favourite topics to read about, and just, the obviously the tragedy around that time period, but also the incredible stories coming out of it.
Yes.
Was that something that always interested you, or was it something that you found later on in life? Or I'm oblivious to how one would get into it.
I discovered it totally by accident. At school, I never took art beyond grade 8.
Wow.
I took history until year 10, but I was not particularly good at it. I even failed one semester. I was more going down the legal studies and graphic design aspect. So I had aspirations of either being a lawyer or an architect. When I left school, I was accepted into law, and I did law for 2 years. And I woke up one morning, and I think it was actually the breaking point for me was constitutional law, but I think it was actually the day I was meant to go to a constitutional law lecture, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So I got out of that, and I needed to re-enroll in something. So I just decided to do a Bachelor of Arts to tread water. And I thought, I like art. So I started their art history course that they had at UQ. And I did okay at that. I wasn't really getting amazing results. But one of my lecturers, Dr. Prue Ahrens, she actually pulled me aside and said, what you're doing in your assignments is quite unique for a student. You're focusing on things that I don't normally see, and I want you to do your honours and consider doing your honours possibly at another institution that can help you focus on decorative arts, which I ended up doing. I moved to Sydney. I just kept on studying, and there were another series of happy accidents beyond that actually resulted in me getting a career in it. But it was totally accidental.
Yeah, wow. Fuck, that's awesome, man. Like, it's something so unique that you often, like, you wouldn't suspect someone to be able to fall into that sort of career.
Oh, yeah, it is. I'd literally taken that course with the decision to tread water for maybe a year and see what I actually wanted to do, and just never actually took that extra step to decide what I wanted to do.
So what drew you to that cutoff point of the 1945 end of World War II?
When I was doing my honours, I was down in Sydney. I had to decide a topic for my thesis, and I decided to do really early decorative arts in Australia. So from the period of first settlement by Europeans in 1788, I cut it off in 1820 towards the end of Governor Macquarie's era. So I was already fairly well versed in that era. My lecturer at the time had asked me to do a little bit more on mid-19th century materials. So I'd been able to do some research on Julius Hogarth, who was a Sydney-based silversmith, and one of his former business partners, Augustus Coswitz, who actually moved up here to Brisbane. And he became the first manufacturing jeweller in Queensland when he opened up in 1860. I then got a gig at the State Library as a volunteer here in Brisbane, transcribing some letters that Donald Friend, the Australian artist, had penned during the war.
Wow.
And so that kind of was where I wanted to sit. I thought after I was doing that transcription of all of that correspondence, that started in 41 and went through to 1960. And I thought, 1945's a nice cutoff, because after that, Australian society seems to change quite distinctly.
What's that change you noticed? Like, obviously from just transcribing these letters, what was that distinct change?
We have, after the war, similar to what happened in Europe and America, we've got a new influx of affluence. People go back from a very austere society that they needed to have in the war. But we also get a lot of artistic expansion. There are a lot of immigrants that come over, particularly from Central Europe, and they settled in Brisbane and Melbourne and ended up working in our technical colleges and our art schools. So you actually see that the art begins to get different around that time. In terms of ceramics, people after the 1950s turn their eyes pretty uniformly towards Asia, and they're looking at the glazes that were in historic Asian pottery and also the calligraphy techniques. Aesthetically, everything starts to become a lot different and a lot more aware of what else is going on in the world. So I thought that's a good time for someone else to deal with. There are plenty of other people out there that can do that.
So, within your job, are you I guess looked at to then also put a price value on these arts?
I have had to in the past. I have been called once or twice to do an assessment of a piece for like legal purposes or something.
Wow.
But I don't actually provide valuations myself. That's a different skill that some people who have their fingers on the pulse of the art market are a lot more adept at.
That'd be very tricky to put a price on something, wouldn't it? How do they come up with that?
Well, there's often only one, so
how do you decide that?
You've got to think of the artist's reputation and what other works have sold for, but then you'll get things turning up that are completely out of the blue anyway. So it's a very imprecise science.
What's the most expensive piece of art that's come across your desk, so to speak, and that you've gone, holy fuck?
When I was doing my honours studies, I had to go and look at various objects to put into the text, and I got to spend a really delightful afternoon upstairs in the staff quarters of the State Library of New South Wales. And they have a ridiculous collection of really important early Australian artifacts. And the bit that I remember from that afternoon was the Newcastle collectors' chests, which were this pair of chests that were made for somebody, most likely Governor Macquarie, in about 1815. And they're really standard kind of wooden boxes with drawers in them. And in terms of a piece of furniture, when you look at them on the outside, they look nicely made, but nothing special. And then you open them up and there are these hand-painted scenes of various areas of Australia. And then you open up the drawers, and in one of the cabinets, it still has all of the original taxidermed birds, which have
Wow.
the colour on their plumage is the same as the last day they were alive. And seeing that like immensely historical object is so precious, but you can't possibly put a price value on something like that. They're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars each, but they're enormously special. And the same afternoon, the library also holds a large collection of Sydney Cove medallions, which were made by Wedgwood in 1789. The first governor of New South Wales, Arthur Phillip, had sent a box of things back, which included a sample of clay. And that clay was sent to Wedgwood so he could test it and see whether it was suitable for making pottery. And he made these little medallions. They're very small. They're only like 10 centimetres big. But they've got this beautiful decoration on them that has this kind of hopeful scene of art and labour doing their job underneath the auspices of peace. And they've got one in every colour. They have most of those examples in the world, and they were all just placed down in front of me on the desk. I'm like, wow, I've got like 8 of the 12 or 13 that survive right in front of me now.
Wow.
That was special. That was a very special afternoon.
Jeez.
Damn. That's pretty cool,
You get
bro.
to play with some fun things. Yeah, you do get to play with some fun things.
You'd come across some cool stuff because, like, these days your day work's at GOMA. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, day to day I work over at the art galleries. I manage the front of house team there. So I look after the customer service and the protective security of those buildings.
Wow.
And yeah, that's a workplace unlike any other. It's
It would
a pretty cool
be
place to work.
unreal. I mean, like, even at the moment, what's the main exhibit at GOMA is the motorbikes, right?
Yeah. So that's a bit left field for an art museum, but it's actually really, really fun. And it brought with itself unique challenges that, try to arrange loans from overseas in the COVID era is quite different to what it used to be because there are less planes moving around the world. But yeah, 101 motorbikes on display that we actually get to look at, both in terms of them actually being a utilitarian object and people riding them from A to B, but also the actual beauty that some of the designers have looked into when they're designing these machines.
That's incredible.
Did you work there, Tim, when they had the Marvel exhibition?
Yeah, you did.
I did.
That was the greatest. I went 4 times. I just want to point out.
FB did a little day trip there.
Tim got us in there, didn't you, buddy?
I did. We all came in as a little group and had a nice little Saturday morning there.
That's amazing.
What was that like, setting up for such a... Because there were some big pieces sitting in there.
Yes.
Not just paintings on a wall. Like,
Marvel was different because a lot of the prints that you saw on the walls of the graphic concepts for the scenes, they were what we call exhibition prints. So they had to be specially printed up for the exhibit.
wow.
There were when you went into the throne room at the back there, that's all able to be dismantled, but there were certain parts of that were too big to come up through our loading dock, so we had to take the front doors off the building. We've done that a handful of times for really big exhibits. It's it's the nature of working in museums.
From what I heard, that whole Marvel exhibit, like, a lot of that was the real stuff from the sets.
Yes. So a lot of the throne room was the actual set. We had most of that on loan to us from the studio, but there were some private collectors who had some seriously big pieces in there as well. And in the first room, we had a copy of the first Spider-Man comic. Which
really
that was on loan to us from the Smithsonian, and it came with a whole heap of security precautions. We needed to have a camera on it at all times. We needed to have a person in the room, needed to be tethered to the wall with an alarm in case anybody tried to move it. Because it's something, once again, it's priceless. Like if that
thing would be worth fucking million.
Yeah.
Holy
collectors who are into that, if they want that first Spider-Man comic, they've got to part with some serious dosh. So
that whole exhibit was something like I haven't been to many gallery sort of exhibits, but I've been to a few in my time, and that was just like a whole. Obviously, now we're talking my language. As soon as you said GOMA, my head went to Marvel. I was like, "Fuck, okay, here we go." But like that whole exhibit was just didn't focus obviously on the cinematic universe, but it branched out into the history of it. And fuck, it would have taken some time to put that all together. Yeah,
it did. I think, I don't know what the actual timeline was, but from what I saw, once it comes down to my level in terms of security, we were certainly looking at that for 2 to 3 years in advance.
Really?
That's kind of once the exhibition is confirmed that we're having it, and the curators then seriously start working on how they want to frame the exhibit, how they want to build the exhibit. But there's negotiations even earlier than that. So these things for the bigger shows can take quite a long time to gestate, because you want to make sure you're doing something really impressive as well.
Yeah.
And the added challenge, I guess, of having a major brand associated with it is that they want their intellectual property represented really well. And actually one of the decisions to allow that exhibit at GOMA was the fact that we've got a cinema in GOMA. We're the only art gallery that has a purpose-built cinema that can screen all of those films the way they were intended to on a really big screen. So
that exhibit, that wasn't you, like GOMA wasn't approached by Marvel to say, hey, we've got this kind of exhibit we want to bring to you. It was kind of GOMA approaching Marvel going, we want to put this together.
Yeah.
Wow.
We had opportunities because Queensland has a really good relationship with, the Queensland state government has a really good relationship with various film companies because of the agreements that they have in place with Warner Brothers, etc., and also the tourism opportunities that come out of that. But that existing relationship certainly helped us in our approach. So there's many different things that sort of play into these into creating these things.
That's how hectic. So you touched on a little bit the security required to look after just a comic.
Yes.
But if we just consider the value that was on just that singular event, what does that look like for trying to make sure people just don't touch shit they're not supposed to, let alone steal it?
Look, theft in the majority of exhibitions is less likely than damage. You're always going to have your people that really want to covet something, but most people just, it's, to use the analogy from the Bible, if only I can touch his cloak. They just want to touch it. They want to actually touch it. And I've seen some weird things over the years. I've seen people touching the frame of an artwork because they thought that the artist would have touched the frame when, it's been reframed half a dozen times in it's this, association that they want to have. And this is going to sound really bad. Please, everybody, don't touch works of art. The oils on your skin can cause damage to them. However, it's in a way a good problem to have because it means that people are actually having an emotional response to what they're seeing and what they're experiencing. And that's valuable because if you can walk through a room and nothing's really inciting that, then, it hasn't hit the spot for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to admit, I was definitely one of those people in that Marvel exhibit. Like, I wanted to flog
You wanted to touch something, didn't you, Brandon?
I wanted to flog every fucking costume or outfit that was there.
Yes, and touch yourself.
Good thing we had the good thing we had the green screen, so you could get a photo.
Yeah, 100.
With,
I know.
a prop.
It was great. What an experience that was.
What would be some of your favourite works of art you've sort of come across in your time there at GOMA or previous places you've been, bro?
There are lots of things that I see in my day-to-day work in terms of what we've got in the collections at GOMA.
Because you'd have access to not just what's on the wall, but stuff that's in the cupboard, essentially, like behind the wall, right?
About 5 years ago, we had a major capital works project in the gallery which necessitated moving the entire collection because we were going to refurbish the collection storage area and put nice new racking in there and redo the floors and everything, just so the conditions can be better kept in that space.
Yeah.
And as part of that project, I was seconded to move every painting in the collection.
Wow.
That is an enormous privilege because it's the kind of site that curators don't even get to see. They don't get to handle every single work one by one through the collection and see it all. So I did get to see quite a fair few things standardly in the collection. But
you must just sit back a few seconds and just, lack of a better word, just hold that piece of art and you'd get a bit lost in it almost. There
are some times where you go, oh, this is special. I'm never going to be able to do this again. In our collection, we've probably the last 5 years or so, we've really been making a concerted effort to get more international printmaking. And to do that, as a part of that, we have purchased 2 major suites of printmaking, the first being Albrecht Dürer's Apocalypse suite, which was made in 1496. And it's a really impressive edition. It's kind of the first large format illustrated gospel discussion. So the Apocalypse is obviously from the Book of Revelation. He did woodcuts because in 1496 not everybody could read the words, but they were certainly more adept at looking at the images. So Dürer's images are seen as really, really important, and they're quite a special group of works in the collection that provide me with hours of enjoyment. And incidentally, they're on display at the moment, so I really enjoy being able to spend time in that gallery and just have a look at them. They're just rich, full of different images within them. The other thing that I really like in the collection from that printmaking portfolio is Picasso's Salt and Banks suite, which was 1905, 1906. He made all of those images. And they were printed in various editions, and we are fortunate to have impressions from several of those editions. But they're, once again, they're Picasso before he went abstract. And there's this really lyrical line work that he does that we don't usually see in the abstract Picasso, but in his early work, you see how well he can actually draw the human form.
Now, Tim, do you find, obviously Brisbane hasn't really been known for its arts and its cultural aspect in recent years, but I do feel like it's becoming more prevalent. But do you ever feel that all this history of art and everything is a little bit lost on our culture? Do you feel like it's not appreciated as much?
I'd agree with that. Yes, we've got a set of people in Brisbane and Queensland who are really interested and quite knowledgeable about art. And since I've been working at GOMA over the last 14 years, I've definitely seen an increase in literacy and an increase in interest as well. Yeah, right. But Yeah, I think, a lot of people, it just glosses them over. It's not something that they might think of doing. And I don't know how you improve that, because Brisbane's a very outdoors city. We actually like to spend time outside. In a city like Melbourne, where the weather's not always as great, they need more indoor activities. So they go to their galleries more, they go to their museums more. We tend to only do it when we have to, because the weather's so great up here, and we like being outdoors and doing things. That even reflects in the architecture here. A lot of buildings in Brisbane have a lot of natural light going into them, because we get a bit claustrophobic without it.
100%. I just think
on a rain day, is it busy as hell at GOMA, mate?
Oh yes. The two busiest types of days that you'll get is when it's just kind of a constant drizzle through the day, or when it's insanely humid, and people will go in because of the air conditioning. It is always 21 degrees and 55% humidity to maintain the conditions of the artworks there. So, people know that it's a go-to place for a nice, cool, refreshing visit.
But I think it's something as well, like once you're introduced to it, you create an appeal. And I think obviously in our younger generation, I don't see it grasping it unless you're a history buff growing up or something like that. It's not something that catches your eye. But, having a conversation with someone like yourself who's clearly passionate about it, and we've said on the podcast before, passion trumps everything. And one conversation with you, and I feel like I just want to go sit in an art gallery and appreciate this stuff in a different light. And I say that, kind of a joking way, but in all seriousness, I feel like I want to go to GOMA now.
I think Tim needs to take us on a personal tour, Brando. What do you reckon?
Yeah, 100%. A personal tour.
I can do that. I think part of it is just not...
the exposure aspect.
When you get exposed to it... that's one part of the equation. You actually need to go to these places and see things. Particularly with contemporary art, though, I found when GOMA first opened, and it was, I think, the second weekend of the building being open, there was this gentleman up on level 3 of the building. He'd gotten all the way up there and he was looking terribly confused. And he was asking me about random pieces on the wall, and I was telling him as much as I could. Because I was still getting used to those exhibitions myself at that stage. But you could see that he was just not really gelling. And I then said, look, if you don't like it, if it doesn't turn you on, you can just go to the next piece. You don't have to like it. And that was just this massive weight off his shoulders, because I think some people think they have to go into those places and understand everything and like everything. And sometimes it's just not going to turn you on. And other times you're not going to understand it without having to read an essay. So you don't need to pressure yourself. At least, you can have a look on the wall and go, that's really cool. I might want to find out something more about that. Or you can just go to the next thing.
It's a bit like anything else. Like, not everyone's going to love chocolate mint ice cream, but some people for some reason do.
Chocolate's yuck.
I'm a fan. Love a choc mint.
Well,
I'm clearly outvoted on this podcast.
Yeah, this podcast just ended. So
we're at 0 choc mints. But have you had opportunity to travel with your work, or even just do it personally so you can see art from around the world as well?
Yeah, so I've concentrated most of my travel to Europe. So back in 2012, I went to London and Paris, and that, of course, was amazing.
The Louvre.
Went to the Louvre, went to the Musée d'Orsay, went to the Musée de l'Orangerie. There's...
Can you just say all those words again? That was... You said it so fluently.
You get used to it. But yeah, they were amazing places, and you end up with a bit of art fatigue as well. Like you go through after days and days of looking at pictures, and you go, I can't actually take any more on now. In 2013, I was selected to invigilate the Australian Pavilion at the Venice Biennale for a month. So that's a big 6-month-long art show that they host in the kind of not quite botanic gardens, but it's a historic garden in
Hello? Oh, no.
He just dropped out.
Oh, Tim, that was looking like it was a really good story. Where did you go, bro? Hello, Tim. We have a nice frozen photo of you.
I know, that is. I was going to say, that's our thumbnail for this episode. Look at that. While Tim's just getting back on, I just want to really point out how good his mustache is.
He can mustache, my friend.
He can mustache very, very well.
He's incredible. What's he got to do? Is he got to dial back in or something?
No, I'm not. I think his internet connection's just shit itself, to be honest.
I'll drop him a message.
Oh, here he is. He's back in. He dropped out.
Oh! Welcome back, Tim Roberts.
He's connecting. There we go. Oh, wait. Connecting to audio.
There we go. I don't know what happened there.
It was just a drop out of the internet.
I don't know. Sorry.
It's all
Hello,
good.
everyone.
Oh, that's an amazing pillow you have, Tim.
Round 2. Okay, so yeah, back to, I guess, where I was.
Yeah.
In 2013, I was able to invigilate an exhibition at the Australian Pavilion in the Giardini in Venice, a big garden over there.
Oh.
That's a 6-month-long exhibition that is done every 2 years. And the Biennale is where you kind of select one artist that you think shows off your country's culture for that year. You show somebody who you think's like really good or really up and coming, or like each country has a different approach, I guess. In Australia, we tend to show somebody who's quite senior, but who has ideas, who has really good ideas. And the year that I was invigilating was actually the last year that our pavilion at the time was in commission. We had built a temporary pavilion in 1986 with view to getting a proper one at some stage. And we were going to build that proper one in 2014. So this exhibition was going to be the last time this temporary pavilion was used. And the artist that was working at the time with us, Simran Gill, she was like, oh, well, you're not using this pavilion anymore, so can I take the roof off? And they're like, okay. And so we had the whole gallery open to the elements, and that was one thing she wanted. She wanted it to rain inside the gallery some days, and for the artworks to be exposed to water and insects and sunlight, which was really unique. But at the end of the exhibition as well, she asked them, oh, you're not going to need that wall anymore. And so she got them to remove one of the walls, and she cut it into 10 centimetre by 10 centimetre squares, and then wrapped each square of the wall in one of her photographs and then sent it to all of the volunteers.
Oh, wow.
So I've got a little Simran Gill somewhere in a cabinet somewhere.
Wow.
That was from Venice, from a building that's no longer there. So
What was it like living in Venice how long were you there for? A month?
A month. Yeah. So the Australian team, there were four staff members at any time, and we lived across 2 apartments. It was very tiring. Because there were parties every night.
Oh, what a problem.
How
did you keep up with that?
You have like, imagine all of the big countries in the world have pavilions, and they've all got teams of staff, and so you'd get text messages going, what are you doing tonight? Oh, let's meet here for dinner, or let's go to this bar, or this is on at the theatre. So it was really amazing, quite a buzzing time, but it was its own type of exhausting.
Yeah. And in an epic place like Venice as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't feel sorry for you.
I don't feel sorry for me. It was such a privilege. And then the third trip that I went was just to London in 2018, and I was actually lifting at that trip. But I spent a lot of time in the British Museum there. That's one of my favourite institutions. Spent 2 days there. Did the Tate, did a few other museums as well, but the British Museum is a big favourite for me.
Wow, that's pretty cool, bro.
Yeah.
And what was the a little bit off the art subject, but I mean that comp was pretty. That was a big moment. That comp.
That was a big moment.
Tell us about that, bro.
So it was the second international LGBT, lesbian, gay, bi, trans, international powerlifting competition.
Yeah.
It was held in a gym in Bethnal Green that was established, I think, in 1913 or 1915. It's just this like brick bunker, really unassuming building. You enter through, like, it doesn't even have a front door. You sort of go around the back. Looks like a little electrical substation. And there was this tiny door around the back, and it was like such a kind of warehouse-style gym. But around the walls were just all of these photographs and awards of people who had done strongman and physique and weightlifting competitions from the 19-teens onwards.
Wow.
There were 45 competitors. There were there were 4 people representing Australia, but 2 of them were living in London. And then the other 2 competitors were both from FB.
Yes.
So myself and Sim. And we both ended up with gold medals for our weight classes.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
That was very good. But yeah, there were 45 competitors, 1 day, 3 lift comp, got us all in and out. But we had people from America, we had people from Germany, we had one person who lived in Switzerland but was representing Hong Kong. That was a truly international competition.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
That's unreal and pretty. And you said that was the second year running for that event as well.
Yeah, that was the second year. They did do another comp in 2019, and obviously the 2020 comp had to be postponed thanks to COVID. But only last week they did the call out for the 2021 competition, which, fingers crossed, if things improve in England, that they'll be able to go ahead with.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's unreal, bro. Yeah. And I'm going to move away from powerlifting because I've got something I just have to ask you about. How many times have you been down the slide at GOMA when it was there?
It was a slide. We have had that slide up twice. And I honestly can't count how many times, because sometimes it was just easier to go from level 3 to level 1 that way. So for the viewers who don't go to GOMA too often, we don't have it up at the moment, but we have a artwork in the collection by I think he's German or German-American. That's not important. Artist Carsten Holler, and he created a slide as one of his artworks because he's really interested in how people respond to space and respond to movement. So this little slide goes down 2 stories of the building, and it swings you around a couple of times, and you come out at actually a breathtaking speed. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun, and I like that idea that artworks can also be objects of play, and people can really enjoy them. But to answer that question, I cannot count them. There was more than the isolated slide ride.
And most importantly, does the slide come back? Because I also have enjoyed time on that slide as well.
It is in the collection, so the people of Queensland own the slide, and one day we will recurate it into an exhibition. So,
amazing.
watch that space. I don't think it's going to be in 2021. Well, in fact, I know it's not going to be in 2021.
Probably not. We're not allowed to touch anything.
Yeah. Oh, it's a touch point, of course. But yeah, it will certainly be back. It's one of ours to play with. So yeah, but he's done stuff all around the world. Like there's slides of his in like the Tate Museum in London and stuff like that. So he's really well known for those kind of works.
Yeah, wow. I think that's something pretty cool to think about. I never really understood who owns the art that's on those walls in a gallery. But like you've said, sometimes it's owned by the gallery itself. They have their own collection, and then a lot of stuff is loaned as well. Are people happy to loan stuff like that? How does something like that work?
Depends on the person. Some collectors are very they're very private, and they either won't loan at all, or if they do loan, they'll loan on condition of anonymity. So that's when you'll see on the wall, you'll see the label next to the wall, and it will just say private collection. They're not really interested in people knowing where it comes from. I think with bigger works of art and bigger collectors, they understand that it's important to have your work out there, because then it reinforces how important that work is, and the fact that institutions do want to loan it. But then we also have our own collection here in Queensland. The collection's about 17,000 objects.
Wow! Imagine the value.
Yeah, we've the value is reported.
Oh no, Tim!
Wants to find out, you can just look through the annual reports. I won't say anything. But if you want to do that research, members of the public, you can do that. But with our own collection, we not only display it at GOMA, but we lend some of those works to other institutions, or we'll send them on regional tour. So people in regional centres of Queensland can see it. We also have all of the government buildings. So you see some of our paintings on display over at QPAC or Government House. So there's other avenues at which we make sure the collection is seen by Queenslanders.
Yeah, right.
So is there a bit of lack of a better word, a bit of trading that I guess goes on with art? Like, you guys here in GOMA will give some stuff out to someone overseas, and then you're thinking, all right, well, we'd like a few bits of your stuff, and you send it over here for us to borrow, and you start building relationships and stuff like that?
Sometimes, but not always. So when you're doing a big blockbuster exhibition, you might engage an agreement where you send some work over to them, and then they send some work over to you. And that can fill spaces in different museums. In a lot of cases, that doesn't really happen, but it certainly has happened in a few cases. One thing that I'm seeing museums do now is develop partnerships with other museums so they can tour the same exhibition to 3 areas. So we have relationships with museums up in Asia, where we'll send work up to their museums, and the same exhibition will go from place to place across those areas. It happens internally in Australia as well with the bigger exhibitions, because it's very expensive to mount some of the shows. When you think about the value and the insurance you've got to pay,
and then just the physical man hands that have to go into just taking something off a wall and looking after it and then transporting it would be ridiculous.
There's a lot of behind the scenes things that we don't even think about. There are art couriers that spend their days moving works of art around in proper conditions and making sure that they're taken safe, because otherwise, the insurance companies won't cover you unless you're moving them correctly.
Ooh, ever see any near misses of stuff just getting dropped or stumbled or fumbled or hear of 'Cause wouldn't that'd just be your nightmare that you turn around and knock something off a wall or...
Oh, well, there was a famous case, I think, 5 years ago. No, it was longer than that. It's probably 10 years ago now, in the Fitzwilliam Museum in Cambridge, where a gentleman fell down a flight of stairs and smashed 2 Imperial Ming Dynasty vases that were almost the size of a person each. That was a mistake that you don't want to make.
Wow.
So that museum had to undertake a conservation plan of those vases, and they're back on display now, and they've done a magnificent job of restoring them to what they originally looked like.
Really?
But it was a right mess. Like, if you Google that, there is video footage on YouTube. It's not nice. It's cringy.
It's making me cringe just thinking about it.
Yeah. It's not what you want to be. You don't want to be that person.
No.
But yeah, accidents certainly do happen. They're fortunately not very regular occurrences, but yeah, it is a risk. We are dealing with physical objects, and as any kind of exposure of them is going to put them at risk. But we want people to see them, so we wear that.
Yeah, and that's what insurance is for. Not that it's replaceable, though, is it?
No, it's not replaceable, but maybe we can buy something else nice, or we can repair it with that insurance money. So,
have you seen the movie Thomas Crown Affair?
No, I haven't actually. I'm not a big movie buff.
Have you not seen it?
Everyone.
You do know what it's
I know
about.
that I do, yes.
Right. I would have assumed that'd be something you would have seen 10,000 times.
I'm too busy doing my own research. I'm too busy,
Is that
scratching through history and finding shit.
Have you seen that, Brando?
Nah, man, I haven't.
How am I the only? Both of you need to do that tonight, please. It's incredible. But I get the concept of that movie is people trying to steal the art off the wall, and I won't tell you how and what happens with it. But is that a real threat for art in a modern place these days?
In the majority of cases, no. Like actual theft is a minimal threat, and it's foolhardy anyway, because in Australian museums, definitely, if you drop a pin in those places, alarms are going to go off. They're relatively recently built, so they're difficult to get into. There's a lot of security infrastructure. There's often people wandering around not too far as well, so you'd be stupid to do that. That said, in Europe, it has happened. A couple of years ago, there was a theft in Austria where somebody went in and they smashed through a glass cabinet and just took a whole bunch of jewels.
Wow.
And it was just a smash and grab, because there were things that the person didn't take that were monetarily infinitely more valuable than other things that had been taken. But it's really sad, because you're not just taking stuff that's worth money, you're taking everybody's history. And everyone's story, and you're putting that at risk. Another situation happened in Paris about 5-6 years ago, where some people took some stuff off the wall, and I can't remember if things were ever found. I think they thought that they might have been dumped once they knew that they were actually valuable, which is another thing. Sometimes these people steal something without truly knowing the value of them, and then when it goes into the newspaper and says, it's worth X number of $1 million, they kind of panic. It is unfortunate that people do it, but if anybody who's thinking of doing that is watching, and I'm sure they don't watch this, but if you are...
Hey, everyone watches this.
Just keep the things where they are. They're for all of us, not for you.
Don't be greedy.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Mr. Tim, we have 10 questions for you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I've girded my loins. Let's go.
What makes you unique?
I'm the art historian who lifts, and I like hard bars.
Yes, you do. Who are the special people in your life?
special people in my life. My best mate, James, my second best mate, Sil, and probably my coach, Jamie. They're the three really special people that make a difference every day.
What's something you're most proud of?
Most proud of? That's a difficult one. I've been lucky that I've had a lot of moments like that. Can we come back to that one?
We may.
Yeah, thank you.
That is a pass to return.
Yes.
If you could star in a movie, what would it be and who would you be?
It would obviously have to be something arty, I think. And I'd have to play the lead. I can't have...
You're not playing second fiddle.
Yeah, no.
No,
Front and centre here, please.
What
She
is...
wants that lead actress Oscar as well.
Yes, she does. What is your most used emoji?
It's a toss-up between the heart and the devil horns.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
They go together very nicely. Wait, what was your favourite dinosaur as a kid?
A brachiosaurus. I think that's the one with the long neck.
That's the long neck and the big body eating
Yeah.
the... Yep. No,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
If you could find out when you're going to die and how, would you?
I'm going to say no, but curiosity would probably get the better of me at some stage, and I'd say, can I actually take that? So
Can we
yes.
open that envelope? Thanks.
Open that up.
What age do you feel right now?
Yeah, I'm 35 and I feel 35. I'm in a place I want to be. Yeah.
What pet did you have growing up, or pets?
We had cats, and I got a dog when I was 10. Lovely border collie called Molly.
Molly. What's the best thing that happened to you last week?
Best thing that happened to me last week. What was last week?
I think it was getting invited onto the Platform podcast.
Actually, it was. Yes. I did get an invitation to Government House, but I haven't replied to that yet. So.
Well, you replied to us. Oh, yeah.
There we go.
We know who's most important. Now, the big one, what is something you're most proud of?
Yeah, let's come back to that. Last year, I published my first book.
Yes.
By myself. It was a history of a leather and fetish club that's actually here in Brisbane. It was in a limited edition of 50 copies, of which 10 presentation editions were going to various institutions. And yeah, it took a huge amount of time. So that was definitely an achievement. And everybody's been like, yeah, it's a great history. And apparently it's the first thing of its kind in Australia. So something to be proud of, yeah.
Fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
And there's only 50 copies out there.
Only 50 copies out there, and they were all sold in 36 hours.
Damn, bro.
Amazing.
Anyone who has one of those is a very lucky human.
Yes. There we go.
I like it.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Tim.
Thank you very much for giving us a brief history and insight to what you do, man. That was definitely more than educational, but it was an experience. If people wanted to reach out, find out more, how can they get in touch?
You can subscribe to my Instagram, which is at Timothy Roberts Art Historian, or at Frozen85. My professional profile is also available on Facebook, so you can search for Timothy Roberts Art Historian. All my contact details are there. And you can see more of what I do there.
Awesome, brother. We'll definitely chuck that up in the show notes. But again, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, man. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
It's been a pleasure seeing both of you boys as well.
Hopefully see you Monday night at the gym, bro.
Yes. It's only a few hours away, fortunately. So
Two more days so I can train again, bro.
Yeah. 50 more hours.
All right, lads. Thank you so much.
Thanks, bro. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.